So long as like alchemy.
Andrew Bogut. Man. So the buyout market didn't pan out. I had mentioned this several times. Patrons, you know, we've been talking about this for the last 30 days. Who are we going to pick up? Are we going to be able to pick up anybody? And in my last breakdown, you saw Kevon Looney. He's fallen out of the lineup. I'm like, is Kerr? That's Kerr's guy. What's going on with Looney? Well, now it's been told that he has a pelvic contusion and he needs to rehab it, right? And I don't have to remind you, hardcore Warrior fans, remember Kevon's first few seasons in the league, and the fact of why we got him in the draft out of UCLA was he had to have multiple hip surgeries, man. So prayers up for Kevon, because he's really carved out a nice niche for himself in the league, but it sounds like he's chipped up. Jonas Jerebko, remember the spectacular start he had for us? The tip-in Utah, the revenge game. He was hitting threes. And hey, the effort is still there, man. You know, but I think his legs are betraying him at this point in the season. Now, we had a little bit of time off. Did he have, I think it was Sean who had his second child. I think Jerebko had a child as well. So he took some time off and he just can't seem to find his legs. He's not finishing at the rim as well. And most importantly, he's not shooting the three ball as well. So all of a sudden, and you consider Damian Jones with the torn pectoral months and months ago, all of a sudden, the Warriors are super dependent on DeMarcus Cousins. 16 games into coming off an Achilles. He's only played 16 games, and every game, DeMarcus has incrementally shown me something. He's starting to gain his balance, his confidence from behind the arc. I know the threes haven't been dropping, but he's starting to figure things out. Now, of course, he's always going to be a liability in the pick and roll. We saw that in the Sixers game the other night, right? But this just comes out of nowhere because Warrior fans, if you remember, Andrew Bogut, he left on bad terms as far as I remember. There was whispers within the organization of, oh, we can't rely on him. He's always hurt. He's injury prone. And then in his departure in 16, right, there was kind of a little bit of bad blood. So I was more than surprised to hear this happening. But I'm happy, man. I'm gonna keep it a buck because Bogut, let's get into what he's been doing. He was just playing in his Australian league. I believe he was named Defensive Player of the Year and MVP of the league. Okay, fine, whatever, you know, the Australian league. But here's the important details of what he's been doing. He played 29 of 30 games in the season, 30 minutes a night, and averaged 11 and 11. So he seems to be healthy. And we know with his injury past and some of the times when he doesn't, here's what you forget about Andrew Bogut, or what some of you fans may not realize is he's so tough. You say, oh, he's finished. He's a gimp. He can't even get up and down the court at times, right? He's so tough. He plays through injuries. And at times what that does is it makes him look really bad. And sometimes maybe he shouldn't, right? But he's only 34 years old and styles make fights, matchups. And you say, oh, that final roster spot, I heard, shout out to my guy on Twitter who was asking me, I thought Damian Lee had secured the final roster spot. You saw him play well. He hit 4 threes Saturday night, right? But that may not be the case. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Now, before we go further, let me say this is not a done deal. I'm hitting you with the breaking news. This is what's being reported. He hasn't signed on the dotted line. He needs clearance from this Australian team, right? But, those of you that are saying, I thought we were going to pick up a wing. Sean Livingston doesn't look like he really wants to play basketball anymore. Quinn Cook, these guys haven't been producing like we've seen, and it was going to be Damian Lee. But again, let's go back to styles make fights, right? Because let's take a look at the Western Conference playoff contenders. Portland, Nurkic. OKC, Steven Adams, right? San Antonio, LaMarcus Aldridge. Utah, Rudy Gobert. The list goes on and on. If you look, Denver, the Joker, right? So all of a sudden, the Western Conference has all these rugged, tough physical centers. And don't get me wrong, I'm impressed with what I've seen thus far from DeMarcus, especially as his movement has got better. We know he's not a defensive stopper. He's on the offensive end. And the thing about Andrew Bogut, no, when it goes small, if there's a Houston matchup, yeah, he's going to be taken off the floor. So will Boogie. But what he does so well is defend the pick and roll, because it's not really about speed and athleticism. When you're that big, it's about decision making. He knows when to show, he knows when to drop. And it's just like watching D Wade the other night, how crafty he is in the pick and roll, right? He's not blowing by people. He just knows how to sell and at the right moment, either hit the pass or pull up or pump fake, right? Well, Bogut's kind of like the defensive version of that, right? He knows when to show, he knows when to drop. He makes people uncomfortable and off balance. And then let's not forget about the screens he can set for the Splash Brothers, right? So I just think this is a match made in heaven as far as insurance for DeMarcus and another big against this Western Conference with a ton of centers now, right? He can be our big defensive lineup and Boogie's our big offensive lineup. So I like the move, man. Now, here's something that I do need to bring up. We all know it's been well publicized and documented how DeMarcus joined this team. He was scorned and, they've done a great job of bringing him into the culture even when he wasn't playing in the beginning of the season, right? And there's all this talk about him finishing games. The minutes cap is off. He didn't finish the game in Philadelphia the other night. He gave up 6 threes to Mike Scott. But this doesn't make things exactly easier for Steve Kerr, right? Is DeMarcus going to be salty if Bogut gets more minutes than Boogie in a particular game or in a playoff series? Are they going to have to, that's what the balancing act's going to be, because you say, all right, it's insurance. And, one thing about both these dudes, both of them are going to say how they feel, right? They're both kind of alpha personalities. And so hopefully they mesh and unite and work together as a two-headed monster at the center position, and there's no saltiness between them. But overall, I like the move because you saw we had circled Robin Lopez, right? To me, this is almost better because of the familiarity with the system and the locker room and the fact that he's healthy. You say, okay, Robin's more durable. He's more, that would, but what you would point to. But the fact that he just got off a season playing 30 minutes and 30 games, it's not like it was an 82 game season. He's in shape and ready to go for the playoffs, man. So shout out to Bob Myers and the Warriors, because whenever it looks like, oh man, what are they going to do? They didn't do nothing. They pull something out of the hat. Andrew Bogut back with the Warriors. What do y'all think? You like it? Did you think we should have picked up a wing? Who else is on the buyout market? There ain't really anybody else on the buyout market, but let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.